o'clock. We're going to be turning that on as soon as we're done with this. University of Florida, College World Series tonight. Both of those are elimination games. And then, of course, we have Lord Stanley's Cup coming back to South Florida, hopefully to stay after tonight. I'm excited to be back at Nicholas Children's Hospital. We're joined by the First Lady of Florida, Casey DeSantis, and the First Lady of Golf, Barbara Nicholas, and her husband, Jack. So you may have heard of him. You may have won a golf tournament or two back in the day, but they've done so much here to make this a really, really impressive and consequential facility. We have Florida's great Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Ladapo. Lieutenant Governor from Miami, Jeanette Nunez. And we have Senators Harrell and Ana Maria Rodriguez. And we have Representatives Basabi and Garcia from South Florida. Then all the way from Northwest Florida, we have Representative Michelle Salzman. So thank you all for being here. Now, where we are today with Nicholas Children's Hospital, we can say that this is one of the leading pediatric hospitals in the nation, highlighting the nationally recognized patient safety and quality achievements. Nicholas Children's Hospital was named a top children's hospital by the Leapfrog Group this year. Additionally, Nicholas Children's Hospital received its 5th consecutive magnet recognition from the American Nurses Credentialing Center's Magnet Recognition Program. That is considered the gold standard for nursing excellence nationally, and Nicholas Children's is one of only 5 children's hospitals in the nation to have received a 5th designation. And of course, at the heart of all this has been the amazing work of Jack and Barbara Nicholas. They've done so much to improve the lives of people in South Florida. We're honored that they've made Florida their home for so many years, and I know they're going to continue to do a lot to better the lives of Floridians. And we are also answering that call in the state of Florida. The budget that I signed into law, as well as the legislation that I will sign here today, is going to make a positive impact on the health of Floridians, particularly with respect to the health of our children. This budget now has a lot of investments across the board, not just what we're going to talk about with particularly the cancer, but this budget has record funding for K-12 education, record funding for higher education, and our higher education is ranked #1 in America. Our overall education is ranked #1 in America 2 years in a row by U.S. News and World Report. We also are doing that with no tuition increases. We haven't raised tuition in Florida for years, like 10 years. So as in-state, you can go to college here for about $6,300. You can't beat that in other parts of the country. We are also able to do record funding for Everglades restoration and conservation efforts. We have a beautiful state, and we've got to make sure that we continue to be good stewards of this great environment of ours. And so we've been able to deliver time and time again on real significant support. And we have done a big infusion in transportation and infrastructure, the biggest transportation FDOT budget ever, as well as our Moving Florida Forward initiative. We recognize the state is growing. I'm not asking people to move here. They just keep moving here. And so we got to get ahead of this. It's a little harder in this area than in some other parts of Florida because some parts have a little bit more room to build some more roads. But we've accelerated infrastructure projects that weren't even started to begin until next decade, are now underway, including here in South Florida. And we're going to end up bringing these projects in for a landing 7 years ahead of schedule, 10 years ahead of schedule, in some places even 15 years ahead of schedule. So we're doing all of that, and what I'm going to talk about with healthcare, in a budget that actually spends less than we did the year before. How many places overall are actually spending less than they did before? I know the federal government is not doing that. They're borrowing and spending huge amounts of money So as part of our budget, we actually have funds to accelerate the repayment of state debt, and we now have the smallest per capita state debt of any state in the United States of America. And we're running a over $17 billion surplus. That's like the second largest in Florida history. The first largest was like a year or two ago. But we had all this, and I'm like, we've got to do. So we did $2.5 billion in tax relief, moving Florida forward. We've done all that stuff. So we've quadrupled the rainy day fund since I've been governor. So we are in great fiscal shape. So when we talk about some of the investments we're making in healthcare, just know that we're doing that within the context of a budget and a fiscal situation in this state that has never been better. And I want to thank the legislature for being good stewards. Also had to do a little bit of vetoes to make sure that we're into where we need to be in, but I think it all worked out very well, and we're in really, really good shape. Now, what we're doing here. So in the past 2 years, we've invested more than $138 million to expand pediatric services for kids in need. Additionally, nearly $85 million was provided to specialty children's hospitals that provide acute care services to children. And that's going to be really significant for these organizations to continue. Nicholas Children has a line item in the budget for an additional $255,000 to support providing specialized care for patients served through children's medical services. And so that'll be something that'll be good. But I think here and other facilities around the state are going to benefit from the real significant investments that we're making. First, as part of the Live Healthy initiative spearheaded by our Senate President Kathleen Passidomo, we've got an additional $456 million to support the health of pregnant women, new moms, and children. And we've never done anything at that level in the state of Florida, and so I was happy to sign that into law. And then we've also made historic investments in cancer research. And we want to do all we can to be able to save lives, to be able to combat this significant scourge. And so our budget will allocate more than $232 million for cancer initiatives, with $60 million for the Florida Cancer Innovation Fund. So this is something that was $20 million in current year, now going to go up to $60 million. And that's important because you have places like Nicholas Children's, support for pediatric cancer research. We can direct money, and we will direct money here from that innovation fund. We also have $127.5 million for, named after the First Lady, the DeSantis Cancer Research Program. So that's something that's really significant. Now, they already awarded for this year $20 million for the Cancer Innovation Fund. That was 30 cancer research programs across the state. And this is something that's really significant. When you're dealing with medical research, there's obviously a role for the private sector, but that's really only viable if you have a prospect to be able to do something that can be monetized, because otherwise the money is just being spent. So when we're doing stuff in the state, sometimes it may be something that the odds may not be as good, but we think that something that potentially could have a big payoff, and so we're willing to do that. Now, one of the things that with the First Lady's Fund is that it's really confined to these National Cancer Institute entities, and we have three of them now in Florida, and that's great, and they do a great job. But we really believe that we need to be diverting even more resources to places like Nicholas Children's, other places, particularly with pediatric cancer, that may not be NCI designated. So the Innovation Fund will be able to do that, and we're going to be working with the legislature to try to maybe tweak the First Lady's program so that that's something that will be available for more than just a handful of institutions. Finally, I'm also proud to announce that Florida has invested another $3 million to support research and grants specifically for pediatric cancer over and above what I just mentioned in this year's budget. So this is something that's really significant. I'm proud that the legislature has funded these priorities. I think it's something that's going to make a difference. It already has made a difference, but I think the best is yet to come. Now, we also have some legislation that I'm going to sign, so I'm going to go through these bills very quickly, and then we're going to hear from our more important guests, starting with the First Lady. First, Senate Bill 1582 makes several changes regarding the Department of Health, including establish new recognized professions and programs within the department. Importantly, the bill creates the Andrew John Anderson Pediatric Rare Disease Grant Program to provide grants to advance research and cures for rare pediatric diseases. This initiative was led by Representative Anderson from Pinellas County, who lost his son to an ultra-rare disease when his son was just 4 years old. There are also over 7,000 known rare diseases affecting over 350 million people globally and 30 million people throughout the United States. That's almost 10% of our country's population, so this is something that's really important. And this grant program will be laser focused on those rare diseases. To date, the program has already received over 30 applications, demonstrating that there is strong demand for this type of funding. SB 1582 also standardizes newborn, infant, and toddler health and hearing screening to ensure timely diagnosis of diseases. And through all these changes, we will expand research efforts and cut bureaucratic red tape, giving families a better shot at quickly identifying and fighting pediatric disease. I'm also signing Senate Bill 7072, which will deliver more funding, research for cancer research, initiative, and treatment. And as I mentioned with the First Lady's program, this bill will enhance the program. It will promote high-quality, innovative health care for people undergoing cancer treatment in Florida. It also provides new requirements to bring accountability to our cancer institutes, because this is taxpayer money we're talking about. We're not just putting it out willy-nilly. We want to see metrics. We want to see results. We want to make sure that money's being spent well. And that's something that's really, really important, not just for taxpayers, but also for the patients. The bill codifies the Cancer Connect Collaborative in law by establishing with the Department of Health to advise the department and the legislature on developing a holistic approach to the state's efforts to fund cancer research initiative, facilities, and treatments for cancer patients. So under this bill, the collaborative will play an important role in advising the department on the awarding of grants issued through the Cancer Innovation Fund. It'll make recommendations on proposed legislation, rules, best practices, and reporting, and will develop a long-range comprehensive plan for the program by December 1st of this year. So I think in that plan, you'll probably see something about making sure that the pediatric centers like Nicholas are even more to be in the kitty to get support, and we certainly support that. So we have new appointees. I think they may be here. Are they here? Dr. Scott Ackerman, Dr. Nick Panetta, and then our Secretary, Jason Weed. Okay, so we got two of them, and then Jason Weed as the Secretary of the Agency for Healthcare Administration. So I know that they will be good members of that, and it's really, really important that we're able to do. So we will be moving forward on that, and I think you'll see a lot coming, and I'll let the First Lady discuss more of that. Finally, I'm signing House Bill 885, which requires the Division of State Group Insurance Program and allows the Florida Medicaid to provide coverage for biomarker testing for the diagnosis, treatment, management, and ongoing monitoring of diseases or condition. So this is a way to look for genes, proteins, and other substances that can provide information about how certain treatments will work for that patient. So that is now covered under those programs. So all in all, this is a really significant day. You're going to see more and more positive outlook on funding for cancer research and many of these other programs. And I would note, if you look over the last many years, you've seen Cleveland Clinic has done a lot. Mayo, all these places have done a lot more in the state of Florida. I think there's a demand for it, and I think you're starting to see that demand being met. I know they're working on stuff in Palm Beach. So all in all, I think we've got a lot of good momentum. So enough from me. I want to invite up our speakers. So we'll start with the First Lady of Florida, my wife.
I'm not being disrespectful to the governor at all by bringing my cell phone, but I did want to get updates on FSU because they're playing right now and we didn't want to miss any of it. So Madison, by the way, wanted to come today. She's doing a work day with mom and dad and wanted her to see how important this is for both of us and really for the state of Florida. Really want to thank, honestly, what the governor has done to make this a priority. Want to thank the legislature for appropriating the money and putting the intel behind it. Representative Garrison has been huge. He was part of the Cancer Collaborative. I saw Senator Harrell. Really appreciate everything that they have done to make this a meaningful difference for the residents and those battling cancer and their families. You know, I never thought that I would be on the forefront of the fight of battling cancer, but you know, when things happen to you, you have a choice. It's how do you respond to what happens? And when God gives you the opportunity to throw yourself into the arena to be able to make a difference, what do you do with it? And so I'm very humbled in this position as First Lady to be able to come out and lend my support to something that I know a lot of people are suffering with as we speak. And so that's why this is very meaningful for our residents in Florida. And it really started in 2022 when we did the Cancer Connect, because we saw at that point in time, when you're diagnosed with cancer, you're not sure what to do and where to go and who to turn to. And there's so many resources and there's so many physicians and who treats what and what hospital systems. So we started Cancer Connect as a way for people to get meaningful information in a one-stop shop. The other thing we did with that was to provide testimonials, because I can tell you personally, one of the hardest things is when you feel like there's no hope, right? That you're wrestling with the day-to-day just really difficulties of having cancer. And so to hear people, and I was very blessed because wherever I would go, I'd have somebody and they would recognize the governor and they figure out who I was and they'd come up to me and they would say, you know, stay strong, you can get through this. I was a stage 4 cancer survivor and I'm here, you know, standing tall 20 years later. Or I was stage 3 or stage 2. And when you hear those kind of stories, because you always think worst case scenario, it gives you hope. And there's a lot of people out there who are like that. There's a lot of new innovations. There's a lot of new technologies. There's a lot of new treatments. And so there's a lot of reasons to have hope. And so we wanted to make sure that the people across the state had that hope as well. So that's really where it started in 2022. Now you fast forward to where we are today, and we started with the Cancer Connect Collaborative, which was kind of an ad hoc group of folks that we got together who were in it for the right reasons to come up and brainstorm about how we can make it better. And now today, with what the governor is signing into law with the legislation, it really solidifies it. And it gives them the ability to really take a deep dive into what's happening. And it's really founded on 5 principles, and one of which is the data. We need to have a better approach to how we're looking at the data across the state of Florida. Occurrence rates for cancer, that's huge, because if we're seeing something in one part of the state, we need to know now so we can respond. If there's something that's environmental, we need to be able to be on top of that. We can't wait 2 years, which is how it was originally doing. We had a 2-year lag on all of the data. So now we have that coming in, hopefully quicker. The other thing, we're the first state in the nation to do reoccurrence data. So it's cancer. Are you getting a reoccurrence, and what path, and what can we learn from that? Are things getting better, or are they getting worse? Is there something going on now that we need to know about? What's happening? We need situational awareness, and we need to work amongst the hospital systems. The other thing I'm really proud with this legislation is the funding. There's a lot of money that's being appropriated to this. I think it was $120 million with the $60 million, or $60 million for the Innovation Fund. We need to have accountability on it. Because it's one thing to spend money, to say, oh, we're spending money for cancer. But I mean, we need to know, is it working within the hospital systems? And if it's not, well, then we need to communicate that. And that leads to best practices too. So if Hospital A has a really great innovation and a technology, man, Hospital B needs to know about it. We don't need to have, and I'm not saying that everybody does this, but the walls of having like a competitive advantage between one hospital system and another. I mean, I know I particularly had something that was incredibly beneficial to me. I want to make sure that every woman knows that that procedure and technologies are out there. And so I think better communication and collaboration is huge. Innovation and barriers to entry. You know, we don't need red tape and bureaucracy, and that's right to what he's all about. Let's just get it done. If there is unnecessary barriers to be able to provide opportunities and hope to people in Florida, like cut through the red tape and get there. And then really and this is one too, and I know that the collaborative is going to work on this, is what is causing this? I mean, we know, yes, don't smoke. We know there are certain things that we can do. We can exercise more. But there's things beyond that. And it's like, I look at somebody like me. I was relatively young. I had 3 young children. I had no prior existing condition. I didn't have any of the BRCA genes. And then I get cancer. And so it's like, what can I be doing? What can the people of the state of Florida be doing to protect themselves and to be able to protect their families? What do we know? It's like, take all of the normally say BS aside and let us know the truth of what we can do to better equip ourselves. And I know that the collaborative is going to do that. So honestly, it's an honor and it's a privilege to be here with my daughter, who's been an inspiration, and of course my husband, who helped me get through every step of this process. And then now to be able to doing something with lasting effect in the state of Florida, it's very humbling. And I only pray that the people out there know that there is hope and that we are fighting for you. So never ever give up. So God bless you.
Good job, Madison. Well, First Lady's done outstanding work and has really moved the needle in ways that I don't think anyone thought possible. So I really appreciate all she's done on behalf of the state of Florida. And I also appreciate what Jack and Barbara Nicholas have done on behalf of the state of Florida. They're the founders of Nicholas Children's Healthcare Foundation. If you look at all the good that's been done down here, it all goes back to them. They didn't need to do any of this. I mean, they had great lives. He was a great champion, but this is who they are. They want to make things better for people. They've made a huge difference, and this place is going to continue to make a huge difference. So why don't you guys come on up, and we'd love to hear from you.
You want me to go first? Well, thank you, Governor, and First Lady DeSantis. Barbara and I are honored to be here alongside you to announce the continued improvements in pediatric health care and research in Florida. But, you know, before we get to that, Governor, you're a busy man. Casey, you're a busy girl. 3 kids. You got them out in the golf course. You got watching Florida State and Florida play baseball. You got the hockey game tonight. And you come down here and do this. Thank you very much. But the state's investment in such programs makes such an impact in the lives of Floridians and especially our children. You know, we're parents of 5. We're grandparents to 24, and now great-grandparents to 7, all 2 and under. So we join many in offering our heartfelt appreciation. We look forward to working with you to further growth efforts to invest in pediatric cancer care and research here at Shaham. Where is? Right here, the Shaham Cancer Center, who have so kindly have helped us and been with that. We appreciate that so much. And helping us, and of course here at Nicholas Children's, and of course at the state's 3 other specially licensed children's hospitals. In addition to funding pediatric rare diseases, and it's a testament to your leadership and support of families in Florida, parents should never have to wait for months to receive results of their child's diagnosis, which is exactly what the First Lady was just talking about. And we are grateful to you, to Speaker Renner and Representative Anderson, for making additional investments in the area of rare pediatric diseases. And Governor, we stand with you to continue further pediatric health care so no child or family will have to leave our great state of Florida for care.
And I think along with that, the things that Jack mentioned, we want to make sure that we take care of our children in Florida. And I often call our doctors at Nicholas Children's Hospital angel doctors, because I truly believe that they perform miracles every day. The floors above us today are filled with children in intensive care units. Some are infants, others are young children or teens, but what they all have in common is that they will receive the specialized care that they need and deserve, because we must remember that all of these precious patients are not miniature adults. The dozens of facilities and centers that make up the Nicholas Children's Health System provide parents throughout the state the opportunity to have their children taken care of without the burden and expense of travel, under the leadership of our terrific CEO, Matt Love. Thank you. Governor, Jack and I thank you from the bottom of our hearts for joining us today, and thanks to you and First Lady Casey for sharing our passion to help children. I think a baby is God's opinion that the world should go on. So for Jack and me, that's what it's all about. This hospital is a true treasure to the community and for our state, and we are humbled and grateful to be part of it. So thank you so much, and may God bless you all.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Well done. Well, thanks so much to Jack and Barbara. You guys have made a tremendous impact. It's been, we're fortunate in Florida to have so many people that step up and do a lot. And, you know, we were just watching the U.S. Open yesterday, and you see how difficult it can be down the stretch, you know, missing putts, this and that. This guy won 18 major championships, and that's not going to be beat. And I mean, he came in second a lot too. So I mean, he was in the mix more than anybody was, and has had some of the greatest moments. What's the number one thing when people meet you first time? Do they 86 Masters? Is that the number one thing people remember? Yeah, I mean that was an incredible thing. But you know, he reminded me, we were at the Ernie Els charity dinner a few months ago. And I was like, you competed even beyond that. And he came in the top 10 in the Masters when he was almost 60 years old in the late 1990s. And so that's really incredible. So now kind of Florida is the epicenter of golf. We got so many of these professional golfers that live in southern Florida, and we're proud of that. And it's a neat thing to have in this state. And, you know, Jack also, because he had a grandson that played at Florida State, he redid the Florida State University course. Didn't even charge him. He just wanted it to be good. And now it's one of the greatest college courses that we have in the country. So all this is great. Putting the money is great, but you got to have leadership. We have Jason Weed that's going to be on this board, but also the Department of Health. And you know, we saw a lot during COVID. A lot of these health departments really went haywire, and they just were not doing what was evidence-based. And Dr. Ladapo was one of the few who was willing to follow the evidence and make sure that we were doing things in the state of Florida that made sense. And those were right, whether it's having kids in school, whether it's you go down the list. He was leading on that. So I feel good about the funding. I feel good about some of these policy changes, but I know with Dr. Ladapo at the head, leading the Department of Health, this stuff's going to actually get implemented. It's going to be effective. So I want him to come up and say a few things. Come on up.
Thanks, Governor. Thanks, Governor. Well, this is a very cool day. I mean, you know, Jack Nicklaus. I mean, that's like, it took me a minute to just sort of, I was looking through the notes, and I was really, it's like very special. I don't play golf. I don't enjoy golf at all, but I really admire people who are at just the top of their game, and they do amazing. I have. It is not a game for me. I mean, I would. That is not. It's not on my list.
Maybe we get him out to Bears Club, get him a lesson. He'll get hooked very quickly.
I've tried many times, I should say, and I tried. I gave it I gave it a good go. I tried. I promise. So it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool. I'm thinking about how if I'm going to be able to get a selfie with this guy today. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. Well, thank you, Governor, for the kind words. I appreciate it, and you know, we've talked about a lot of really cool, great initiatives for kids. I mean, every children's hospital is a very special place, particularly the doctors who work there. I myself, I'm an internal medicine doctor, and I could not do pediatrics. I spent a few months doing my pediatric rotation during medical school, but it's too hard for me. I can't. The thought of sick kids is, I mean, it takes a very special person to be able to take that on and to be able to be there for those children and for the families. So I have a lot of appreciation for people who take care of anyone who's sick, but especially sick children. And of course, it's also a wonderful gift to give to a sick child, to be able to help that child through illness, and to be able to for that child to be able to come back to their families and be able to enjoy their families, and for their families to be able to enjoy them. So it's always a special place to be in a children's hospital. And the initiatives that we've talked about today, it really is a great combination. Within the Department of Health bill, we do have the lawmaker Anderson's rare disease research grant program, which is important. And I mean, some of these diseases are incredibly rare that we see, and sometimes many doctors won't even know what they're called. They're that rare. Never see one in their careers, and it's great to have that investment in those areas. Oftentimes, the economics may not work out for pharmaceutical companies, but the research is obviously still important. Unfortunately, there are a lot of perverse things about our system right now. For example, there are drugs that cost $1 million a dose, or thereabouts, just because the disease is rare, and that's another problem to tackle and to think about. We also have changes in our bill in the Department of Health related to just making some things more efficient with newborn screening and things like that. But in particular, I really want to highlight what inspires me the most about today and some of our initiatives, which is First Lady Casey DeSantis's just her commitment, a deep, robust, and real commitment to taking her experience and making it something that makes life better for other people. And I really admire that. I appreciate that. It is very special. People, when they encounter adversity, have different directions that they can go. And some people come inward, and maybe everyone comes inward to some extent, to really find those pieces of yourself and pull those pieces together to be able to overcome. But then to come out of that and to really authentically and fully think about how you can take your experience and make it better, make life better for other people. She's the embodiment of that. And what's beautiful about that is that everything that comes from that is perfect. So in terms of, for example, she mentioned 5 points. I mean, it's perfect, right? Someone who is like a doctor who's thinking about how to improve these things, they don't have that same connection that she has, and without that connection, you can't produce the same quality of ideas and the same authenticity of ideas. Like what she's identified, the data problems, right? The silos with competition, other aspects that are hindering the ability for places to provide good care, for patients to know where to go for care, for patients to know where to go for just support, and families and caregivers to know where to go for support. Bringing those things together, just having access to them that's so easy, it's so tangible, is something that comes from an authentic, deep-rooted connection, and everything that grows out of that is perfect. So it's really wonderful, the gift that she's giving to Floridians, and in fact, it will go beyond Florida. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm inspired by that. I'm grateful to serve in this position under the governor and also under the First Lady. And yeah, so thank you.
All right. Now, Joe is very outward about health is not just about pumping pharmaceuticals in. He talks about the exercise and the diet and everything. And just for the record, walking 9 or 18 holes of golf is very good exercise. So you should start incorporating that into your recommendations. Just put the bag on your back and go do it. It's good. Okay, we have one more speaker then. You don't have to. You don't have to. You can do it. And it's important that people have opportunities to do it. Now, like I'm a native Floridian, so I don't mind the heat, but I mean, we're now, as you get into the period we are now, I mean, it's hot. It's hot June, July, August, September in particular. So the people that you see out there on the course, those are the really serious people that, like, they're not going to be deterred we start to have the courses be a little bit more populated when the weather moderates a little bit, and so that'll happen as we get into the fall and winter, of course. Okay, one more speaker, Senator Harrell, come on up, and then we'll sign the bills.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Governor, for inviting me to speak today. I'm just delighted to be here, and I have to say, I give you credit for all of this, but there's someone who deserves much more credit for today, and that is our wonderful First Lady. Let's hear it real loud for our First Lady. I sponsored Senate Bill 7072, which is the cancer funding bill. And I can tell you, this year we have made such strides in healthcare, whether it is the Live Healthy combination of bills that we all were involved in, and Senator Rodriguez, you were so involved as well. But to me, this bill is so important. It is putting more money into cancer funding than we have ever done in the history of Florida. You go back to 1986 when we started Moffitt Cancer Center, and I distinctly remember that. My husband was an OBGYN, and we referred, and I owned a mammogram center. We referred a lot of people to Moffitt. Today we have 4 NCI designated institutions in the state of Florida. The changes that we have made under your leadership in the last 6 years, and specifically in cancer, from what you have done is amazing. My daughter had breast cancer, and her daughter, who is sitting right over there, my granddaughter's visiting, and she was barely her age when my daughter had stage 3 breast cancer. And I think of where we are today in the research that we are putting specifically into breast cancer. It is amazing. So when I look at how we spend our money, and as chair of the HHS Appropriations Committee, I have a little bit of say in that. But I can tell you the leadership that is coming out of this state in where we have gone very specifically in the last 6 years, the increases. We have the James and Esther King Biomedical Research. That was the first really designated, other than Moffitt, the first really designated biomedical research, and that was in 2006. The progress we have made, everything from Bankhead Coley to Live Like Bella, thank you, $3 million going into Live Like Bella, and of course, but the most significant increases have been really driven by this governor and our wonderful First Lady. When you look at the Casey DeSantis Research Fund, that in the last 6 years has gone from $62 million up to $128 million. That is direct research. And this bill is going to put additional dollars and accountability into the use of those dollars and how we are spending them. But then you also look at what we are doing. We have the Mary Brogan Breast and Cervical Cancer Fund to help pay for mammograms, to help pay for testing. Those kinds of things make a huge difference. But I can tell you, when it comes to putting money into innovation, $60 million. We started 2 years ago with $20 million. We are now doing $60 million into innovation. And that's what it's all about, true innovation. How we are going to really change the needle and take that holistic approach so that when your daughter has breast cancer and you have a support system, that helps a lot. But for so many people, that's not there. And you have to take that holistic approach to researching and treating cancer. And that's what this Innovation Fund is going to do. And it is going to, this is just the beginning. Hopefully I'm back in next year, and I will be out there working very hard to continue your mission. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so everyone that's going to participate, we'll gather around here. Madison, I'm going to need your help with the pens, so come on over here. Jack and Barbara, Joe. Well, I want to thank everybody for being involved with this whole process. Thank Nicholas Children's Hospital for hosting us. Now, I do have one other piece of business while we're here. As you know, several weeks ago, we recognized the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. And we're now, of course, 80 years beyond that. There were, of course, a number of people who were killed in action during the D-Day invasion. And then, of course, the people that came home from that invasion over the passage of time. 80 years later, we've lost the overwhelming majority of folks who participated on that invasion and beyond in World War II. But it's important that we and subsequent generations recognize what they did that day. That we recognize that freedom hung in the balance during that time, and that if it wasn't for a merry band of brothers storming those shores in France in June of 1944, we would not be who we are today as Americans. And so a lot of the living D-Day veterans traveled over to Normandy to celebrate the 80th anniversary, and I know that was very special for many of them. And what we said here in Florida is we, of course, don't have that many that are still living, but for our living D-Day veterans, I am going to award the Medal of Merit, which is Florida's medal for exceptional meritorious service to either the state or the nation. So, but, you know, they're all over the state. There's a handful of them. And so what we said is, you know what, when we're in your area, we'll let you know and we'll do it. So I am very honored to be able to recognize today James Weir, who grew up in right here. There we go. So James grew up in Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania, not far from Pittsburgh. He joined the U.S. Navy in August of 1943, and he went to war on behalf of our nation, fighting in both the Europe and the Asian theaters. On June 6, 1944, James crossed the English Channel aboard a Navy LCT to deliver tanks and troops onto the beaches of Normandy. After the battle was won in Europe, Jim fought in the liberation of the Philippines and onto Japan as part of the occupational forces. After the war, he worked as a master electrician, and so I have it right here. I'm going to be able to do the award. So you just stand right there. I'm going to put this around your neck, and we're going to be good to go. So this is our Florida Medal of Merit. You got it? You got it? There it is. And then this is for a shirt lapel to go along with it. So, you want to say anything? Not really? Okay. Well, we appreciate you, and we're going to make sure that not only people right now, but our school kids going forward will be taught about the heroism that were embodied by you and your fellow sailors and soldiers and Marines. So God bless you, sir.
Well, I want...
Go ahead, sir. Come on.
Just a minute. I want to thank the governor.
Microphone so we can hear you a little better.
I want to thank the governor and the lieutenant governor for the leadership that they do for us. And I guess we fought for one of the best countries in the world, and especially I'm proud of being in the best state in the country in the world. Right.
God bless you, buddy. Here's the case for that. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Yeah, appreciate it.
Proud of you.
Appreciate it, yeah.
Yes.
Well, thanks, Jim. We really appreciate the service, and it's meaningful, and as long as I have anything to say about it, we're not going to forget throughout this state. Okay, wonderful event. I'm happy to take some questions. We got any? Yes, sir.
I wonder if you can elaborate on your decision to veto the $57 million legislative services line item budget. And on a lighter note, Tallahassee for the game. Hopefully tonight you get that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, people said, well, they don't need to win Game 4 because we want to celebrate in South Florida. And I was like, when you're up 3-0, that's what you want to be. But you take the win when you can get it. So I think they're going to be fine tonight, and I think we're going to be able to get it done. I think it'll be exciting. And, yes, we will have that. And hopefully our baseball teams win today so we don't have to use that to nurture the sorrows from that. But I do feel good. I think that we're fortunate to have two great hockey franchises in the state of Florida. Legislative services budget. So obviously we want to support legislators being able to have adequate support and staff. I think this particular budget item had this interchange fee, millions of dollars for what's called an interchange fee study, which we do not want. Basically, there's some people that want to force all small businesses to use credit cards. And we think if you're a small business in Florida, you want to be cash, you have every right to do that. So as long as I'm governor, we will ensure that our business can operate on a cash basis if that's what they want. I also know that there's enough money left over to be able to cover all the services for the coming year. So you're not going to see any interruption in services, but it was really rooted in that interchange fee issue, which we thought was a poison pill. And I think even people like Speaker Renner agree with us on that. So we'll be working with them going forward, but I'm confident that they'll have all the funding and support they need. Glenna.
So you did mention you made a couple of vetoes saying that we are mired in stormwater coverage here, as you know. So could you, Governor, take us through the thought process of the vetoes and all of the stormwater projects?
Because we have, exactly. So I signed a bill in South Florida, not too just north of here, where we are dedicating hundreds of millions of dollars for those projects. And so what we said was, it's not that they're not valuable projects, but we have the money available. If we're going to have a grant program like that, then don't litter the budget with separate things. Let's move it through the grant program. So I think what you'll see is a lot of those things will end up getting funded, but they're going to be funded through a grant program, and I think that's what it is. And if you want to litter the budget with it, then let's not do the grant program. But I didn't think doing both made any sense. So we have record amount of money for stormwater, and actually I did the Resilient Florida program, so that's been billions of dollars now. And so we're going to continue to do that, but we got to do it in an intelligent way. And if we're going to have money that's set aside in the budget every year on a recurring basis to have a grant program, then let's move the projects through that rather than have some in the budget separately and all that. So that's what it was. But I would imagine most of those, it wasn't, some of the vetoes I did were because the taxpayers shouldn't be funding some stuff. On those, I think most of those were things that I like and support, but I think that they need to be channeled through the grant program. So they will get done, and we'll work with them for it. And we have worked a lot on our Resilient Florida initiatives as well to provide matching money for local communities to be able to improve infrastructure and do things to be able to help with those things. Yes, sir.
Hey, can you talk about your decision to veto that bill? Did you do that? Did you expect more from the industry in Florida to oppose it?
So the hemp bill, I think, had some problems, and I think it really would have made it very difficult for legitimate businesses to operate, which, by the way, we green-lighted that in the state. We did a hemp bill to pave the way for this. So it's not like this is just a random business. This is a business that we, as the Florida legislature and me signing, said that we're going to allow this. I'm all for doing things to not have children have any access, but that's already illegal. We already have things in law that can go after that. So there was other things that I thought were heavy-handed. Now, looking at it, the marijuana industry was supporting this hemp bill. I mean, I think the marijuana industry wanted this hemp bill. They wanted to curtail that industry, and then they want to be able to get this Amendment 3 passed, which, for those of you who don't know, what they're trying to do, Amendment 3, recreational marijuana, but it's much beyond that. If you actually read the text that will go in the Constitution, it says you can have no penalties for possession or use, civil, criminal, anything, for use or possession of marijuana. Now, the problem with that is the entire state will smell like marijuana if that passed. Colorado did this. It totally failed. California did it, totally failed. Everywhere that's done this has been a complete and utter failure. And so I wouldn't say that was the primary thing, but when I did see marijuana industry trying to support this, you know, some of these people that are funding the marijuana, they came in when we did the medical marijuana, which I implemented because the voters passed it, and they said, we don't believe in recreation, we just want to do medical, we think it can help alleviate pain or whatever. And those same people that were saying that are now trying this amendment, which, oh, by the way, this amendment, actually, the proponent of it, one company, out-of-state company, they wrote themselves into the amendment, into the Constitution. This thing needs to go down. It needs to go down hard, even if you're somebody that kind of likes marijuana for whatever reason, which I don't, but even if you do, this is so far beyond just saying you're not going to criminalize it. This is saying that it's going to be rampant all across the state. This is more liberal than what Denver did, more liberal than what California did. And you can talk to people in places like Denver, and they will tell you it was a mistake. Even people that supported it at the time, they will tell you that it was a mistake. So let's be smart about this. Our state is doing well. If you look at these cities that have collapsed, there's a number of different things that have gone into it. I'm not saying this is the only thing, but one thing they have in common, when you have crime, homelessness, some of the other bad policies, you do have this stench everywhere you go, whether it's New York City, whether it's San Francisco, whether it's Denver. So let's not do that here. But I wouldn't say that was the primary. I'd say the primary was I felt an obligation to protect Florida small businesses. I was concerned that this bill, as implemented, would potentially hurt businesses that we have green-lighted to basically go forward. Now, whether it's the hemp, whether it's vaping, any of this stuff, I mean, we all agree that minors should not be doing it, but any business that does it now can be held accountable for that. So I think it was a little bit too far-reaching. And I do think we'll be able to do something next year that will be targeted at the problems, because there are some any industry's going to have some problems, but that's targeted in a way that's going to go after the bad actors, but not drop the hammer on people that are just trying to make a living. Sure.
Which may not have filtered down yet. 50 synagogues received authorized by bill in the state of Florida today.
I have not received that report. But what I would say in this budget, and I didn't talk about it today, but we have, by orders of magnitude, more funding than we've ever had to provide security, specifically, not only, but a lot of the threats are targeted at Jewish institutions. So whether it's Jewish day schools, whether it's synagogues, you're talking about, we used to do, when I became governor, we thought it was a big deal. We did a couple million. We did tens of millions of dollars to be able to combat the threat posed by rising anti-Semitism. So what I would just say to people is Florida's prepared. We have put our money where our mouth is, and if you're going to try to bring that to our state, you're going to end up hitting a brick wall, because we're going to fight back, and we are not going to let universities in this state end up like Columbia University or some of these others. We will make sure that we have order in the court. We make sure that the inmates are not running the asylum, and if people are being targeted because they're Jewish or for any other reason, we're going to hold the offenders accountable. Yes, sir. So look, I'm going to be involved in doing what I think is right for the state, whether it's a political committee or other things. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the state. We're going to be helpful across the board on the things that matter. Now, you think about presidential election years. It used to be all eyes of the universe would be on the state of Florida because it was such a close state. Not too much of a close state anymore. Those statewide races, I don't think, are going to be terribly competitive. Clearly, the governor's race wasn't terribly competitive in 2022, but I think that that's the direction that's going. So you do have some of the constitutional ballot initiatives, but then you also have some of these prosecutor races, which if you look at, I mentioned the marijuana, but if you look at how some of these cities have declined around the U.S., if I had to pick one thing that's been most significant and consequential, it's the election of these progressive prosecutors who don't want to prosecute criminals. And they put people back on the streets, and that has been disastrous. So we don't want that in Florida. So we've got a race in Tampa, we've got a race in Orlando. And look, I mean, I'll play whatever thing I can do to help. I think that there's going to be a lot more than just me, but we want to be helpful for all of that. But it is a different political landscape here in Florida. Now, I think when I got elected, we had almost 300,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans. Now we have 940,000 more registered Republicans than we do Democrats. That's a massive, massive change that I don't think any state has seen in modern political history. And so I think it's just a result of the fact that we've produced good results and people have responded accordingly. So we're excited about what lies ahead for the state. What we did today is important. All the stuff they're doing at Nicholas Children's and what they're doing at Sylvester, they're doing all these places, really is meaningful, and people know that you got a great First Lady behind those efforts, and I'm just kind of along for the ride at that point. Thank you, guys.